This is a live reaction right on this face. Let's see if we can get your eyes in it. If the pixelation's up.
Like it, so. I've got a bad feeling sing for yourself, I was too good. Oh, please don't be ugly. It's only mix one though, so this is always terrible.
You really bring yourself up, don't you like it, don't you?
Please don't be ugly. I hate it. Feels weird hearing it in that key. I forgot why they were recording it in that key.
Have we recorded it in key?
Recording that like Catholic 2 gears.
An original key. Like, very original key. Like.
Sounds like the demo from 2015.
Got footstools and I the birds. Got throwing stools and I the birds.
You been there?
When I've
See, I think there are two ways in which people are controlled. First of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them. An educated, healthy, and confident nation is harder to govern.
After the success of a #1 debut album, felt like shit got fucked up fast. I don't feel like we got the chance to glide on cloud 9 for a minute. There's more important things happening in the world, I suppose. It was fucking wild watching fans get behind us with WL. It still feels weird acknowledging the concept of even having fans to me, and I think it always will. After all, we're just music fans at the very core of what we do. But still, we're eternally grateful for the support we received with that record. The very minute the big red button was pushed for the last time on WL, I was already thinking about how to get moving with the second.
I know it's a beauty, by the way, I've seen it on the fucking website.
I mean, some folk think Snuts have made it in that. Who else buys Lush Pack in that bigger fucking package? This means money, mate. This means personal rappers should wear this like a fucking chain.
It's a French press for like instant coffee.
Surviving as an artist in the shadows of the big corporate machine that is the music industry is pretty fucking intense. There's no big books for dummies that you can buy at WH Smith's. Nobody really has a clue how to balance what you want to create as an artist, what the fans want to hear, feel and connect with, and what the record label want you to accomplish. There's a twisted juxtaposition between these three entities because they rely massively on each other to exist even as concepts at all. I think sometimes those three things collide like fucking rush hour traffic. We made the decision that we were going to leave the outcome of our second record entirely up to chance. Just kind of trust the universe to see us alright. There's a lot of that in the record. I'm trying to do a lot more of that just in life in general. I would go as far as saying the most important thing we had learned while making the first record was being willing to trust other creative minds with our music. It's so easy to strangle yourself creatively with your own desires and expectations. I mean, I don't mind tripping up as long as I fall forwards. I wanted a #1 record my whole life, and when we got it, against all the odds, I was no more satisfied than I was the previous day. I quickly realised that the accolades we try to collect in life are nowhere near as important as the journeys we take to attain them. This being the case, what were we actually trying to achieve, now with our minds firmly focused on the second record? I believe this band has so much passion and potential hidden deep in the cracks and crevices of its very existence that it was so important to find someone who we believed could truly unlock and reveal it. It was the dead of lockdown, the cold and flu wars, and first impressions now only existed on Zoom calls. The four of us were introduced digitally to Coffee and Detonate through our A&R guy at Parlophone, Nick Burgess. Nick was the guy who signed us in our dingy rehearsal room and has always believed in the band. He's almost as miserable as me, and I think that's why I've always liked him so much. He's never been shy to tell me when he thinks something is a bag of shit. It's kind of mad how you actually need someone like that in your life. Anyway, Coffee was the first to break the ice on the call. He was so instantly likeable, and I wanted to work with him straight away after just watching his body language and feeling his energy down a webcam. Detonate didn't say much except a couple of sentences praising us as a band and purely on what he'd heard of our music. I don't know how to properly explain it, but Nat does always talking with his ears. It's all sound, that's all he cares about. I love that about him. I was thinking like just straight what I'm doing, or even like that could be quite cool. I don't know. Coffee quickly expressed that he wanted to do the whole record in its entirety, which is pretty unusual without even having met in person or had a trial session or whatever. It felt to me like he believed in what we could do together. I think it's important to gather people who believe in you and reciprocate that emotion in return.
I am Clarence Coffee Jr. From Miami, Florida. Worked with the Snuts on this amazing album called Burn the Empire, and it fucking kicks ass. So how I heard about the Snuts, my guys. Nick Burgess called me, and I'm gonna fuck this accent up. He's like, Coffee, I've got this band. I'd heard about them prior from their previous album. There was a song called Elephant that was sick. So I went and I listened to the album again after speaking to Nick, and I just started seeing all these like flashes of like color and visuals and like textures, and like I could hear the richness in the music and the richness in Jack's voice. And I felt like, oh, this is gonna be sick. Like with a voice like this, we could actually say some real shit. Yeah, I just started jotting down all these ideas, and I spoke to my production partner, Detonate, Nat, jeez. And we just started throwing around these concepts, and yeah, that's how that happened. What's new and unique to me about working with the Snuts is they're a proper band. Like, splitting them up into different sections is really counterproductive because they work so well together. So what was new to me was not compartmentalizing, actually, and really just grouping everyone into one space and allowing that energy to kind of just flow in a room. And you can feel it, you can hear it, you can see it when they even play on stage. But even in this album, you can hear it. Like, everyone's individual identity is within the blood and the DNA of this album, but it's all so cohesive. What ways do I feel like I was able to challenge the band? I don't think it was, I can't say that it was just me individually. You know, I think on a production side, both Nat and I and Dan really kind of curated the space of getting everyone out of their comfort zone, which I think is really important. Whenever an artist is in this space of like evolution and growth, the most important thing to do is get out of what you think you know and get out of your comfort zone and be placed in a situation to where it's like, shit, I don't know really how I feel about this, or I'm not used to doing things this kind of a way. And I think that sparks this creative way of problem solving, so to speak, where it's like you kind of put yourself in a position to paint differently. You know, you don't approach painting a circle the same way, even though, yeah, you could start this way, but what if you actually just didn't start that way, but you started this way? You're still gonna get to the same point, but it's just starting in a different direction. So simple shit like that, I think really, really helped. I'll say also vocally, like the vocal performance, you know, Jack is an incredible singer, an incredible vocalist. But he does get in his comfort zone sometimes. Yeah, I said it, bro. I love you. And I just really wanted him, because he's a perfectionist, and rightfully so, but I really wanted him to be comfortable with challenging himself with imperfection and being okay with his concept of imperfection, because it's more about the emotion behind it than you nailing this exactly the way you hear it in your head. As long as the emotion translates, that's where the magic is. So I think pushing, I don't want to say pushing, but like guiding in that way, I think really enhanced his ability to really just become a raw expressionist and not think so much. Yeah.
Has a large claim. The 36-year-old runs Facebook, the social media giant.
Oh, he's wee horns in your belly for a sec. He's got horns on your shooter, sir.
You've got fennel left.
That'll be better, aye? That is fucking weird as fuck, man. Oh my days, this is absolutely fucked, mate.
Not just because we need to invent a completely new optical stack that's not based on this.
They probably did to that point.
I'm happy to hear
No mystery, we've shot kicked that hole from the south east to the head on Eastern Road.
One, two, three, out. One, two.
Don't force, innit?
Okay.
I'd like you to change it up. When the kick comes in, can you do that for me, aye? And then I see the B guitar groups up, please.
the process for me can turn into a little bit of a blur, I think. Everything happens so fast in the studio. It was literally like set your guitar up, pick a sound, right, go. So sometimes I think we'd be quite deep in the track before we actually took a second and thought, is this actually the Snuts? And Zucker and Blah 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 for me were definitely those tracks. The initial first versions, and I don't know if my memory's tricking me, but I'm pretty sure Zucker Punch sounded like a Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff track, and then Blah 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 was like textbook Sean Paul. I can just overtly remember the vibe amongst the band, and definitely Jack, because he was having to sing it, was like, this is some Vanilla Ice shit. We are in the world of Fight Boy rap, what are we doing?
More dynamics, okay. Ins and outs. Okay. Too much, is it just too much in the one way?
It's intense in a great way, but it's consistently intense.
Okay, I know it, Joe. Okay, here we go.
But I think the way we actually reworked the tracks show how far we've came in the recording process. Last record, I felt we were very protective over our parts and the writing on the record, so when someone critiqued it or offered their advice, we almost took it as like a personal attack and got quite emotional over it.
That's a good ending.
Amazing. Another mad fucking tune though, innit? In the room, that room there, we spent so much time. So there was the four of us, Coffee and Nat, and Dan the engineer. It's quite a lot of people to have in one room for the length of time, you know, that we were in that room, you know, like doing like 10 hours with 7 people. You know, you're going to get to know these people or it's going to be hell. But, you know, we're all from such different places. Obviously we're from Scotland, Detonate from London, Dan's from London, Coffee from Miami, and you know, we all had such different backgrounds, which I think just opened the floor up to like so many different opinions and stories and just different conversations that, you know, were interesting to each other.
Is this song about celebrating difference though, or is it about actually celebrating what you have in common?
Yeah, I think it's more what we've got in common. And so basically the story to kind of lay it all out would be, so we're just sitting in that room, not really making much music, because there's quite a lot of that goes on in the studio. Like, so much not music gets made. And,
what are you doing?
Just talking nonsense, you know. It's just like for people who just like to talk a lot of nonsense, music's kind of perfect for that. You know, but we're talking away, Coffee and Nat were telling us all about, you know, where they grew up and where their families grew up, their heritages, you know, the differences in their cultures. We can explain, you know, the town that we grew up in was like, there was maybe like 2 black families, and like how little education or whatever there was for us, you know, to learn about different cultures, just coming from like a predominantly white town in the middle of Scotland. And the conversation just kind of kept opening up there, and it was kind of, I think probably the first time in my life, you know, just being comfortable to talk about stuff like that, you know, because it's quite daunting, I think, and we're just really super comfortable just to talk about, like, you know, what's going on in the world, you know, with how people interpret different races and different cultures and how we can communicate that and how we can solve problems and amongst that. And Detonate was he's pretty vocal in this conversation, just, you know, and we kind of sense like a frustration from him about just being labelled as like a black guy. You know, he was certainly like annoyed about that. Essentially he says, you know, like, my family from this place, Coffee's family from this place, this culture is so different to this culture. And he tells about things that, you know, he grew up with, different parts of the culture he grew up with, different parts of Coffee, how different they were, sometimes how similar they were. And then he would talk about how similar, like, the culture we grew up in had similarities with the culture he grew up in. You know, and it was just quite an incredible kind of moment for us to just go like, it's great to be able to talk about these things and find similarities. And then he just kind of like, I think he realised he was getting a bit deep and it was unlike him. And he's like, I think he was just looking for a liner to finish this conversation so he could get back to making music. And he just said something like, you know, a pigeon in New York doesn't look at like a pigeon from London and say, oh, that's a pigeon from London. He just says, that's another pigeon. And I think, like, you know, the sentiment of that is just like, you know, we're all just human at its core, and we should be talking about and celebrating each other's cultures. By the core of it, we're just human, and we should be focusing on that side of it.
So that was a throwaway sentence from him.
Throwaway sentence, and I was just sitting there like, I kind of doodle a lot, like, on the guitar just as people are talking, like we were talking about earlier. Yeah. I was just kind of sitting there like this thing there, like, there's pigeons in New York, pigeons in London. Just like that, singing along it, what he's saying. Coffee's like, yo man. And we just like wrote it super quick.
So let's talk about some of the lyrics around pigeons then.
Come on.
And how quickly they came to you. Once you'd had this idea that a pigeon in New York, a pigeon in Queensland, a pigeon in Glasgow, a pigeon in London.
Yeah, man.
And then the pigeon in Kingston.
It's funny.
Why did it kick off after the pigeon in Kingston?
It's so funny because we were like, I had this idea in my head once we had that wee lyric. I had this idea in my head that it should be like a kind of like a folk song, because like everybody has folk songs. You know what I mean? It's like all cultures have folk songs. I felt like it should sound like a folk song, but like a kind of global folk song in a sense. I started kind of writing it in that fashion. And everybody was like kind of around about like Googling, just having a joke, like probably not even like super aware that the song was like kind of happening, or if it was going to be a song. Everybody Googling, like, is there pigeons in every country? Like, is there properly pigeons in every country? And I think we kind of got to the feeling there's pretty much pigeons in every country. So we're just kind of Googling, is there pigeons here? Like, getting to Kingston, I'm like, what name's Kingston? Like, what other places got pigeons? And they're like, and then Coffee shouts like, Queensland! And it just screams it. And then like that's all we had for it. And everybody's just loving it. It's just like,
and you were happy with it going after Kingston, because I was listening to it thinking, why didn't it explode after Glasgow?
Well, I wanted to finish on Glasgow. So the last line's like, what was it? So it's like an old pirate song, like, battled found to fill our times, why don't we let the past go? And as soon as I wrote Pasco, I was like, superb. Pigeons in New York, pigeons in Glasgow. It's pigeons in New York, pigeons in Glasgow. But just like everybody's just the same. And we should talk about it. But we should find a way to do that.
And broken ships and stolen roads and family names and dozy doors. There's pigeons in New York, pigeons in London.
This is kind of where the album's starting to go to. Quite a lot of alien stuff is starting to happen. Like, very good chance we're going to start dressing like aliens.
We've started writing music out as pictures, so we didn't bother vocalising stuff anymore. We just draw aliens on sheets of music.
This is a track listing.
That's track listing.
Song number 1.
Song number 2 actually. We've done it in an odd way. Where's song number 3? We've missed. Yeah. Oh fuck! I always miss song number 3.
So there's not really going to be any. There's not really going to be any lyrics on this album.
Just mere slogans.
Mere slogans.
Slogans.
We come to pieces.
Yes, we come to pieces.
I'm not quite sure what that one means. What does this say?
That says Cosmic Electronica. That's maybe got a feature.
That is definitely going to feature. It'd be mostly this, and then maybe tickle in a wee bit of
I'm talking space, please.
I'm talking space police is quite a prominent lyric so far. Because I'm talking space police!
Oh, man, screwdriver.
That's a big part as well. Aye, so far, that's how it's going.
There's city record in that bin box.
What's happening? Pretty men all that.
Sometimes when you're deep in the weeds recording a song, you can start to worry that you'd strayed a bit far from the path. Will people like this kind of thing? With Cosmic it was like that for the very start. A few years ago I would have shied away from that kind of thing, but I think these days we all just embrace it. You just get on board and think, right, let's see where this can take us. Which in the case of Cosmic was Neptune. Some shit is just undeniably cool. It's important to not let your own sense of ego get in the way of that. It doesn't make sense to be worrying about what other people think when you're singing songs about space police.
Everybody in the control room, how are y'all feeling tonight?
During the recording of Cosmic, there had definitely been a lot of talk about aliens. I remember getting in to put the first drum beat down before anything else and thinking, how the fuck do you record outer space in a drum kit? I had an idea that I wanted to do something sort of Gorillaz-esque, but more harsh sounding. Nat and I worked closely together through the session and thought a few layered drum beats in this song would make it sound massive. I remember thinking I wanted it to sound kind of like steel hammer blows. We worked together, got this amazing sounding drum track, forgetting about the fact that it'd need to be a fucking octopus now to play it live.
So my first impression of the band is crazy because you get Choco, you get Joe, Callum, and obviously Jack, and they each have these very individual, very particular personalities, right? Like Joko is like stealth mode. It's crazy. Like he'll disappear, and not because he's not involved, but he'll just like disappear, and then he'll come out of nowhere and he'll like fucking slay this drum line, and everyone's kind of like, where the fuck did you come from? But dope, awesome, we love you, and thank you for the goddamn like the greatness. Thank you for your godly hammering on things. He's a fucking awesome dude. And you know, you get Joe, who's I feel like more quiet actually, and but when he gets into his groove and he starts doing this head movement that he does, and he kind of spaces out, that boy speaks from such a spiritual place. I feel like his relationship to his guitar is kind of like what everybody probably wishes for in any romantic relationship. That boy makes love to his wood and his strings, is how I'll say it. And it's beautiful to experience. Callum, Jesus, the jokester, the prankster. And honestly, I feel like, and yeah, I'm gonna say this, he's like, he's the way he fucking holds his bass and he kind of gets into it, and he does this like hip movement, and I'm just like, that guy fucks. Figuratively speaking. But it's beautiful because I think there's this sensuality that he has, how he expresses things musically that really translates, and you can really hear it in the movement of like the bass lines and everything. So love him for that. And honestly, his jokes, his fucking one-liners, incredible. And Jack, my guy. He and I, we have a very interesting relationship because, you know, I feel that we really balance each other out in this way that is like, he's very high energy and I'm quite calm. And we really do meet in the middle where it's like, I'm like, Jack, you know, just calm down, everything's gonna be okay. He's like, Coffee, you're fucking stressing me, but like, I love it. And I'm like, that's a horrible accent, but you know, I'm trying to, I'll get it, guys. Just, I'll get it. I'll get there eventually. But his voice and he's a fucking poet. And the things that crosses his mind, or the things that cross his mind, they really do resonate with me because he speaks from such a pure poetic place. And he's not afraid to say shit that everyone's thinking. And I think every great artist does that. As serious as they take their lives, their personal lives, their family, you know, their careers, their craft, they are the biggest jokesters and biggest pranksters I think I've ever been around, where it's just like, you almost have to have like eyes on the back of your head just in case someone like does something, and it's all in good fun, but just does something to kind of throw you off or trip you up or, and just kind of throw you a curveball. I think the fact that they have this synergy within them that they're more family than they are a band, you know? Like, yeah, they bicker. We all bicker with people we love because it's just passion. And I feel like passion translates to them in like comedic outtakes. You know, their frustration comes out in comedy. And I think that's a beautiful thing. You know, so many times we see other people do negative expressions of frustration or tension, and it comes out in really, really destructive ways. But with them, it just comes out in fun and banter and like giggles and laughs and like a fuck you and a fuck off. And I love that. Keeps it real. It's rich.
I think it's probably the most sensitive song on the album, and I mean that not just your personal sensitivity, but because of the subject matter.
You know, Joe was just upstairs playing a bit of piano, and I started writing this song, and like that first lyric, Nothing But Drive, was like the thing that came to me. And I started kind of writing about myself, and then I thought, like, I'm always writing about myself. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff going on around me. I think it's important that I start writing about some other stuff. You know what I mean? So basically that lyric for me was nothing but drive, but I ain't got a license to kill, no money to shop around, but take the till. I think it's kind of trying to highlight the situations that we find ourselves growing up in and how different each other's are. Like, I think for me that lyric is how much a difference there is between growing up poor and growing up in like abject poverty. I think there's such a difference that as a society we've kind of forgot about. That, like, you know, it's just poor and that's it, but poor's fine, you can survive on that, but like the implications of being in absolute poverty, which exists massively still, are so severe. Yeah, I think, you know, where we grew up in Scotland is not too dissimilar to a lot of places, small towns and cities in the UK where like it's like we've been saying it as a band for years, but it's like an epidemic. Your drug culture. And it's fine, you know, people think it's fine because it's so recreational and party based, but there's this whole other side to the drug culture and the problem that we have in Scotland that there's like really kind of serious consequences of. So yeah, well, basically what I'm trying to say there, you know, looking outside drugs recreationally, you know, using them being wired to the grid's a phrase in Scotland that people use when they're talking about like too much drugs of a sort. I think it's about trying to look for another way that isn't just, you know, being stuck in that drug cycle. I think there's a difference again by, you know, trying drugs at school or at parties than, you know, kids who find themselves being submersed in that their whole life, growing up around it. Parents are addicts, their parents were addicts. You know, that evolution, that cycle, the real harsh sides of the drug problem. It's kind of what I'm getting at there.
And then it becomes very personal. I never listened when you gave me your time. I never knew at the time that you'd be holding the knife.
Yeah, so this one's like specific to a situation involving a guy that we were friends with at school, who was, you know, a big fan of the music. You know, that's the thing that I always related to him. If I thought about him now, you know, how passionate he was about what we were doing. And at the time when I knew him well, nobody was really interested in our music. It was just school time stuff, you know. It's just like, but really passionate, you know, like we were his favourite band. And, you know, we found out that he had actually killed someone.
Were you aware that he was violent?
Never, to be honest with you. It never came across to me in the time that I had known him. But again, it's like, I'm quite a big believer in like not just blaming individuals for their actions. I always feel like I would like to be more sympathetic to the environments that people grow up in. I think that's why people become who they are, because of the people that are around. You know, I think as soon as I heard someone had been murdered in that town, it's the town next to us, something just told me, like, you know, I bet that's what's happened. I just had a sense that because it was going that way, you know, we'd been in jail a few times, and just this really serious situation had happened with somebody that we knew, and that had never happened to us before. You know, there's been other times like that in our towns, but never anybody we had known. And it was just kind of a shock to us to think, like, how could that have been allowed to have happened? Because that's sometimes the way I see it.
Why did you want to write about this? I mean, you said at the beginning, I can't keep writing songs about myself.
Yeah.
But why this? Because it's incredibly difficult territory to walk into.
For sure. I think it's that thing about just wanting to be more mature as writers. You know, we want to be asking important questions. I think we want to try and tell people more about ourselves, and just letting people in more to kind of who we are and where we're from, and, you know, whether or not, because we believe a lot of stuff applies to a lot of different types of people for a lot of different types of places. And songs are funny. Sometimes I think, you know, just a tone, a few chords evokes a feeling or, you know, a memory. And for me, when I heard those chords, that's what started coming to mind, you know, like, I feel like I need to write about this.
What are the questions or question contained within this song 13?
So I think for me, talking about this song in this situation, obviously it's such like a sensitive matter. I just want to kind of look at some of the broader aspects of why situations like this happen. You know, it's not so specific to one incident, because these incidents that happen all over the place. And by no means does it like excuse stuff like that. You know,
what he did.
Yeah, for sure. There's no not making any excuses. But I sometimes think like we need to be looking at society as a whole, especially poverty as a whole. It's like it's a word that I never hear anymore. And like, you turn on the news, nobody's talking about poverty. Turn on like Question Time, turn on PM's questions, nobody's talking about poverty. And like, walk down the street and you see poverty, and then you hear stories like this. And for me, I think, you know, if we could eradicate poverty at that level, or even start talking about it again, we could be eradicating incidents like this, in my opinion. People don't know what this is yet. You know what I mean? No. People don't know what BurnTheEempire is yet. We've been putting like BT and everything, painting the clues for a couple of months. People are just working out the puzzle as it goes. People don't even care as much as I care about it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to all paint after that.
Just round about the eye,
That's not Neil Buchanan. Who the fuck's this imposter? Neil Buchanan.
There it is.
Died of a heart attack.
It's a big heart attack.
I think there are two ways in which people are controlled. First of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them. An educated, healthy, and confident nation is harder to govern. And I think there's an element in the thinking of some people. We don't want people to be educated, healthy, and confident because they will get out of control.
As a band, we always go into these kind of things with a plan. I don't know why we bother, mind you. We always end up with the exact opposite of what we expected, musically anyway. BurnTheEempire was written on the second day of the session. I could hear the click track piercing out the studio door as I stood outside battling with my good friend imposter syndrome. I don't know if that's something you just inherit growing up in a working class town, but it's like there's a stigma around believing in yourself. We're going full concept now, that's like we're live on stage, full face paint, old shotguns and shit like that, flags, horses, full concept man.
Horses.
I didn't like the full war paint and that shit, but this song like, just got fucking better.
I'll come on the stage on a horse.
We'll have to make one. I didn't want it to be like to UK and to America, it's got to be like so people can't decipher.
It's almost like something.
You know what I mean? It's got to be like, what is the Empire? Yeah.
That helped. That helps.
Nobody ever remembers all the goals a player scores in football when he misses a penalty. It's like we celebrate failure. I hate that. We've got to change that. We need to be telling each other that anything is truly possible. As humans, we're absolutely limitless in what we can create and achieve, regardless of where we're from and who you are. I can pretty much guarantee you that in places like Oxford College, it's produced 11 of the last 15 Prime Ministers, that students are just told how great they can be. Maybe that's why they're all useless smug pricks, I don't know. Why can't there be a Prime Minister from Whitburn?
That was funny, man. Did you see the cunt that tried to like spear tackle me? He wiped the fuck out, sir. I was like, am I going to have to kick something in the head, sir?
Can't fucking sorted them out though. BurnTheEempire's quite good, didn't I thought?
Amazing.
Aye, we'd done
I don't know if you used to shoot.
think people were into it, like, eh?
Oh man, my mic turned off, turned the camera off at this point. My mic started phoning, somebody loves you.
Aye.
Which is obviously...
It's only your big moment.
Not like, he's saying
big
like...
miming most of
starting, I mean, no miming, but I right, so he fucking started phoning, so I was like getting up the bass and holding the mic like, somebody know, somebody know, like, I was screaming like, Scotty, I'm about to be oh no, that's on camera! Oh.
They sound unreal, mate.
Burn the Empire was kind of terrifying to make. Out of nowhere we had a voice, and my god did we scream that track. Fuck keeping your opinions and politics to yourself. I think we've all forgotten we can make real change. Young people have always and will always bring forward meaningful, important change, and I can feel it bubbling up everywhere around me.
We've got it. And this is a wrap.
Burn the Empire is a protest song. Remember that word? Protest.
No, things have got out of control. I'm not sure.
Burn the Empire. So like you regard me?
If I knew how, I'd try and break down every bit of this record, every lyric, every melody, every guitar part, and try and explain the importance of each of them to you. The truth is, making music is all we know. It dictates everything for us. We're so grateful to be able to do this for a living, but it's a strange one because you kind of miss out on a lot of the real life experiences you require to grow as a person. Making records is how we grow and just get better at being human. Sometimes the hardest part of creating anything, especially music, is that you've no choice but to throw it at the world and hope that it sticks. Hope that someone somewhere connects with it in a way that you'd hoped. Burn the Empire. It's just a product of conversation. None of these songs were created deliberately with a purpose or an agenda. They just happened. Let things happen, man. 9 times out of 10, you're the only one in your own way, walking your own path. Take these songs as you will. If you love them, then great. If you hate them, find out why. Maybe you can do something better, more important. I don't know. But use your head and use your voice. Don't let anyone tell you that you can or can't achieve something, or how you should speak or how you should think. Have conversations and shit. Especially the hard ones. If 4 fucking idiots from nowhere land can do this, imagine what you can do. Make it happen. Fuck them. Burn the Empire. Okay. And it's a wrap.
Well, that's that one.
Okay, there's enough of that to work off it, though, eh?